You're most welcome once again on my promotion tutorials free. And today I would like to share with you another important area that we need to be very careful when we are going to write our aptitude tests. And we need to cover this area before we go and write a promotion. But before we jump into whatever we're going to discuss, I would like to plead with you, kindly subscribe, like, and share. Share with others so that they also get the free things that we are doing to able to pass the aptitude test. Very, very important. This evening, I would like to share with you a topic on reinforcement, punishment, and shaping in the classroom. These three key areas are very, very, very important aspect that we need to look at before we go and write our promotion exams or aptitude tests, or how to handle learners in the classroom, not the aptitude tests alone, but how to handle the learners in the classroom is also much of importance for us to look at this. When we're looking at reinforcement, punishment, and shaping, these principles were developed by B.F. Skinner with his popular box, Skinner box, to help learners in the classroom to learn. That is what it is necessary for us to look at for our promotion or aptitude test that we are going to write and handling learners in the classroom. So if I ask a question, what is reinforcement? How do you understand by reinforcement? Leave your comments or leave your answer in the comment section as I go through with you with this reinforcement and punishment. How do you understand by punishment, and how do you understand by shaping? We are going to delve into it deeply so that you understand what it means. So reinforcement, as we talk about, it simply means anything that increases the probability of a learning reoccurring or a response reoccurring is what we term as reinforcement. So reinforcement is anything that increases the probability of a recurrence of a response that is preceded by it is what we term as reinforcement. So it simply means that a behavior followed by a desirable outcome is likely to reoccur. That is likely to reoccur. So any behavior followed by a desirable stimulus is that is what we are terming as reinforcement. So any behavior that is followed by a desirable outcome that brings about the recurrence of that same behavior is what we term as reinforcement. So anything that increases the chances or the probability of learning reoccurring again, or a desirable outcome reoccurring again, is what we term as reinforcement. So we can look at two type of reinforcement. That is the positive reinforcement and the negative reinforcement. What is a negative reinforcement and what is the positive reinforcement, or what are these two terms? We are going to look at the meaning of these two terms. Very, very important in a classroom when we want to deal with children, when we want to handle children. You need to bring something that will help the learner to continue to exhibit the learning skills that you want the learner to learn. That is what we are after today. So positive reinforcement, it is anything that we present to the learner or the individual following a response in order to strengthen or repeat the response again. So anything in the classroom that you present to the learner that will help the learner to reproduce or to re-give you the response that you are expecting from the learner is what we term as positive reinforcement. So anything that we present to a subject or individual following a response in order to strengthen or repeat the response again is what we term as positive response. We are going to look at examples of positive response that we present to the learners, and the learners are able to repeat or able to strengthen their learning abilities. One is clapping. When a learner gives a correct response and you clap for the learner is having a probability of getting that you have been giving to him to respond in a positive way or strengthen it or give a repeated response is very important. Then another thing that is giving a reward, especially when you give a reward like a toffee, a biscuit to a learner, and the learner is able to reproduce or strengthen his or her learning, his learning is an example of a positive reinforcement. So there are things that organisms like when given as a reward for making a particular response, the learning strengthened again or give another response when a question is asked. Examples that I've given: give a biscuit or giving a child a money. When the child gives a correct answer, the child is likely to give you another correct answer, or the child tries to give you another correct answer when another question is asked again. That is positive reinforcement. Then let's look at the negative reinforcement. Negative reinforcement. So assuming in the classroom you're teaching and you are having a cane, or you're holding a cane, or you're using a cane, then you decide to stop using the cane, or you decide to remove the cane from the classroom. Especially some learners fear canes. So if you remove a cane from the classroom, it gingers some learners to give you, or it gives confidence to some learners to give you a positive response to a question. So it is very important we look at these. So it is anything unpleasant that we remove in order for a response to be strengthened or repeated. So if you want something to be repeated by a learner, or you want to strengthen the learner learning, and you remove the cane or you remove something unpleasant from the classroom, it gingers the learner to repeat or to strengthen the learning outcome. So in a negative reinforcement, a response or a behavior is strengthened by stopping, removing, and avoiding a negative outcome or adversive stimulus. So a stimulus could be a pain or could be something that you do to the learner and the learner doesn't like. So if you remove that thing, the learner is able to learn well or give you a correct response. So the removal of something that is unpleasant or adversive stimulus can be a rewarding as a presentation of something positive. So it's very important we look at this before we go and write our promotion exams. So example, a teacher can reinforce the learner by learning a behavior that he or she eliminates or removes cane from the classroom to help the learner to learn. Very, very important. So it's very, very important that we look at these areas. Now let's look at form of reinforcer. We have two forms of reinforcers. One is a primary reinforcer, and two is a secondary reinforcer. Very, very important aspect that we need to look at before. Examples of, so when we are talking about primary reinforcer, is anything or something that has the inward motivation of the learner and can increase the likelihood of a response that has a survival value for the organism to be repeated or to reoccur. For example, water. If a child lacks water within him, it can cause a problem. Or if a child lacks food, it can cause a problem. So food, water is an example of primary reinforcers. So food, water, or termination of pain or removal of pain, these are examples of primary reinforcers. Then let's look at the secondary reinforcers. So it's a neutral stimulus such as money, grade, that initially has no intrinsic motivation for the learner, that is given to the learner to ginger him. If a learner is given money, it is not inward. So if a learner is given money and this passing an exams can lead him to being rewarded with money or grades, then the child or the learner or the student will learn and learn hard. So it's very important. So grades, money, certificates, or giving a reward as prizes and the rest are examples of secondary reinforcement or secondary reinforcer. Secondary reinforcer. Any human pleasures are secondary reinforcers that have acquired a value of a primary reinforcer. So if the child is given an award because he or she performed, or if a child is given a grade, if a child is given a money, or if a child is given a biscuit or a toffee, this is a secondary reinforcer that we need to know. Then let's go to our third aspect, punishment. What is punishment? So punishment is a process of presenting something undesirable or an adversive stimulus to decrease the probabilities that a particular preceding response may reoccur. And this is something that we need to be very careful. When you are introducing a cane, it doesn't totally remove the kind of behavior away. The behavior may come back in another time. So it's very important that we get to know. So anything that is undesirable that is presented to the learner in a way of trying to remove a particular behavior doesn't mean that that behavior may not reoccur again. It may reoccur again. Then let's look at the third one, that is shaping. That is the most important one. This question happened in 2021 Deputy Director aptitude test. Shaping. And let me read the questions so that you get to know that this area happen or come in the exams. So Mrs. Manu was having a hard time getting them to work in a cooperative learning group. Instead of isolating him, she put him at a table with other learners and instructed him to do his work. Next time, she asked him to share materials with students at the same table. Now, he can't work in a cooperative group without getting into a trouble. What is the name of the strategy used by the madam or employed by the madam? And the answers are shaping, reinforcement, promoting, then controlling student behavior. This is a question that happened on the word shaping in the year 2021 aptitude test deputy director. So what is shaping? So shaping is a process of reinforcing successively closer and closer to the desirable terminal behavior. I take it again. It is a process of reinforcing successively closer and closer to desirable terminal behavior. For example, let me give you a clear example. A child who has been enrolled in a new school cannot read letters. Then you try the child, then the child is able to identify letters. Then you go through with the child with blending of letters to form, or blending the sounds, or helping the learner to learn the sounds. Then later on, you help the child to blend letters to form words. Then you are able to help the learner to use the words that you have guided the learner through to form simple sentences. Then right from that, forming a simple sentences, you are leading the child to reading. So if the child is able to read a simple paragraph or passage, then you have taken the child through shaping. So another clear example is when the child learns to stand up. An infant learn to stand up, then learn to stand, learn to walk, and finally move about through reinforcement, slightly exceptional instance of a behavior closer to the targeted behavior is what we term as reinforcement. So it's very, very important that we look at this area before we go and write our promotion exams or aptitude test Very, very important. So go through this and come back another time. Never forget to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. Thank you. God bless you. We shall meet another time. Bye bye.